back to another episode of Chatterbox with me, Mel Biggs. This is the podcast where every month I get to sit down with a folk musician from across the UK and Europe and chat to them about education, their influences and their life in folk music. This month I am joined by the wonderful young English musician Will Allen. If you're not familiar with Will, you might have seen him posting on Facebook. He became very, very popular during lockdown, where he was posting a tune a day. Very, very fast fingers on the Melodeon, and he also plays the fiddle. This month we get to talking about his influences from Eastern cultures and how he is interpreting a lot of really intelligent things and able to kind of simmer down lots of influences from other cultures and other folk music genres into what he does on the box and on the fiddle. We also discuss more in depth about Will's background with Morris dancing and particularly rapper dancing, which is something that I've never done, so I was really interested to pick his brains about that. And also get to hear more about his first time playing for Cotswold Morris at a very prestigious event at Sidmouth Folk Festival this year. I realised as I was editing this podcast that a jargon buster might be really handy for some of you, so if you're listening at any point and you don't understand what it is we're talking about, I can think of a few Morris terms, then check out the description below in the show notes and you'll find a few words that I have given you the explanations of. It's such a lovely conversation. It's been lovely to go back and edit it. It sort of feels incredibly gentle in places, talking a lot about his influences, about walking around in nature, wildlife photography, and even a chance encounter with English fiddle player Chris Wood. So if you're interested in hearing more about Will and his life in music, just listen to this podcast and I hope you enjoy it. Here is Will Allen. Will, hello, and thank you so much for joining me. Just start off telling us what you've been up to recently. I know you've been on the road with various projects, so what's been going on for you?
Well, very recently, the last week I went to Carnarvon in North Wales for a little solo gig at the Royal Welsh Yacht Club. That was very nice. I got upstaged by a sheepdog.
How? It's Wales, so I guess that happens all the time.
I know, it sounds like a Mickey take, doesn't it? But no, I sat down and started playing my first tune, and then this dog just appeared with a wet rag in his mouth and plonked it on the floor in front of me and gave me this adoring look.
Wanted you to throw it for him in the middle of a gig.
He did, yeah. He was very sweet. What else have I done? Well, to be honest, I spent a lot of the week waiting for a CD delivery for the new Club Débris album, which finally arrived this morning.
Well, let's get on straight away to that, because I know that you're launching it, as we're recording this, you're launching it this Friday, is that right?
Yeah.
So as people are listening to this on the 1st or whatever it is of October, you'll be a week out of Skink, so it'll be available. When people hear this, go and get it. There's a link below.
Out. Yeah. We're selling them through Bandcamp, really, and I would say, do buy a CD, because it makes all the difference. There it is.
There it is. You can see the beautiful artwork on the YouTube video. Who has done the artwork for this album? Because it's caught my eye.
It's a guy called Alex Barrow, he's a children's illustrator. By trade, and I met him 2 or 3 years ago, and he's a great artist, but he's also a complete accordion geek.
Cool. Of the diatonic variety?
Of every variety. He's and he did this little booklet that was a sort of kind of concertina folded thing, and it was a little design of various styles that use accordion. So there was a sort of a Tex-Mex one and a Cajun one and a few other things. And done in this sort of print style, which is what we've had on here.
Really nice.
Yeah, it's come out really nice. We've each got a little caricature each on the front.
They've got your likeness. The beard was definitely had to be part of the feature, but it's definitely captured everybody's energy, I think.
I think so, yeah. Well, he's seen us enough times, but yeah.
Oh, nice. So he's a fan as well. So are you going off on tour to launch this? Just we're getting into it really early in the podcast, but just take a second to promote the tour and the launch of the album here.
Well, there's no tour, actually. We've got a gig on Sunday, but that will be in the past as this goes out. No, the trouble is that there's 5 of us in the band. Only 3 of us are full-time musicians. One of us lives in Bath. It's impossible to get us all in the same place regularly. Yeah. I quite like it because it's a sort of occasional little thing, and people seem to recognise that. That people go, oh, we've got to keep an eye out for when they're next doing a thing, because it's not all that common that we're playing,
Yeah, you have spasms, and then it's kind of dead for a bit while everyone has got lives and work and other jobs. And
Yeah,
It's nice that, I mean, actually, one of the things that I really admire about your particular brand of promotion is that it's no bullshit. It's like there's kind of real, it's almost like no thought goes into it, but actually I think it's a really smart way, and clearly you do think about it, but it's very blasé and kind of like you put a post, a picture up of something that's completely unrelated, but then at the end there'll be a tagline of, by the way, I've got some gigs, come and see them. And I really admire that, because I'm totally the opposite. I'm kind of verbal diarrhea, kind of trying to tell people all the details, and probably over the years I know I have annoyed people, and I had all sorts of comments to the affirmative of that. Tell me, is there some kind of marvel to what you're doing here? Is there a lot of thought that goes into it, or is it just who you are on screen and that's how you come across?
I mean, I'd love to say it was all carefully thought through. To be honest, promoting stuff, I feel like I'm crap at it because it's always quite last minute. I'm not very good at thinking ahead. I tend to think in the moment. I try to live in the moment in general, which is great for me. But then, I mean, what am I doing next week? Oh, I'm at Halsey next week. Yeah, but beyond that, I don't know. There's a wall. There is stuff going on, but I can't think what it is now. And I've also I take a lot of wildlife pictures, and I try and share them as much as I can.
It's a nice way of incorporating that into the narrative of, I'm also a musician and I have gigs to promote, but a narrative of, I'm also a really, really good wildlife photographer.
I just quite like doing both of those things, and I probably should have separate social media for music and one for pictures and stuff, but they kind of feed into each other. And I'm not going to say I wander around nature reserves going, oh, this has inspired me and whatever. I mean, I haven't got the brain of Miranda Rutter, who can listen to a bird song and then write a tune from it. I mean, that's incredible. But yeah, it all ties into it. And I have to go out. I try and go out every day because that's what I learned in lockdown. That's what keeps me sane.
Yeah. What was life like for you before lockdown? What was your kind of day to day?
Well, that's a good question, because before lockdown, if I had a day off, which wasn't very often, but if I had a day off where there was no gig going on or no session or Morris or whatever, I wouldn't know what to do. And I'd just sit indoors all day. I don't know what I did. Nothing, probably. And I kind of felt like I was just wasting time. And I knew I felt that, But just before lockdown, I started going for walks. And I thought, well, that's one thing I can carry on doing through lockdown. I know when we were supposed to only do, an hour outside or something, weren't we? So I don't think that lasted very long.
I think all sorts of people were breaking all sorts of rules, weren't they, during lockdown, and not just for an hour.
I lived sort of semi-rural at the time. So I did a daily walk, but it started out as 4 miles, and the day after it'd be 6 miles, and then it'd be 7. And in the end, I was doing about 14 miles. Not every day, but...
That's impressive.
I remember walking along... I used to start off with the same route every day. And I remember walking along the fields around the back of the house one day in particular thinking, was that Ceilidh 2 weeks ago, the last Ceilidh that'll ever happen? Because we didn't know, did we? I mean, now that feels like a silly thing to wonder, but...
Yeah, because they're back in full force.
It was a completely different pace of life, because I was used to playing 6 or 7 days a week, playing out somewhere. And yeah, suddenly stopping that, very odd, very odd. But like I say, there was good positive to it.
You travel a lot for your work, don't you? I often see, again, from your posts that you might be up in Sheffield, you'll be up in Scotland, you were just in North Wales, as you said. How often are you on the road at the moment with, whatever bands and projects? Because you do a lot of function musician work, which must take you all over.
Yeah, well, how often is too often, to be honest. Yeah, that's one of the things that sort of niggles in the back of my head is the emissions. I'm one of these drivers that tries to drive as efficiently as possible.
Same.
And I've got a little Fiesta, and I managed to do 150 miles, averaging 61 miles per gallon last week, and I was over the moon about that.
Amazing.
I think when people say, "Oh, you travel a lot," they assume that you're always going abroad. I don't go abroad very often, but I find myself going around the bottom half of the M25 a lot. I go through the Blackwall Tunnel more times than I care to mention in a week.
Have you got your sites that you see, kind of like specific pylons or trees, those kind of things around the network?
Yeah. Is it? I think it's the M11. There's a particular bit heading towards Cambridgeshire where there's a field opens up on the left, and there's there's a tyre, there's half a tyre sticking out of the edge of the field, and every single time I go past it, my brain sees that and fills it in as a badger. And it's not a badger, and it's never been a badger.
But every time, it might
Every
be.
single time. And I know it's coming, but I'll be going along, and then, oh, it's a badger. No, it's a tyre. Yeah. No, I do drive a lot. And I quite like it, to be honest. I like having the time on my own. I recharge on my own. I think
Yeah.
people at a festival seeing me might assume that I'm very extroverted. But no, really, it's time on my own that actually gets things
Fuels
going.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
Charges your
that's the
batteries. I didn't realise this about you, actually. I wouldn't have said that you were an extrovert, but I suppose because you inhabit and frequent a lot of places that really would just not be for me anymore. I learned that I can't deal with noise for hours and hours at a time, and that drains me very quickly. So I am more of a solo person when I'm at events now, or I find the quiet corners. But it's nice to hear actually that there's a kind of kindred spirit there that I hadn't realised. But actually, it shouldn't be a surprise because of the amount of hours that you do spend outside in nature. That was the vast majority of my childhood and early 20s. It's something I must admit I don't do so much of now, and not for any reason other than just being a bit of a lazy arse. If I'm not working, I'm usually just in front of Netflix, which I know is a really crap excuse, but I kind of zone in and chill out with that now. But I would love to get back and find more rural space. I'm not in the most rural location, so that is more tricky. But yeah, childhood.
Well, neither am I anymore. I live near Lewisham.
Yeah,
In
you've moved
South East
closer to the
London,
city,
so
haven't you?
yeah. When we were looking for somewhere to move, my sort of thing was that it had to be within reasonable walk of Greenwich Park, because I knew that was enough green space for me to
Yeah.
go, I'm going to be all right, when the city life was grinding me down. And ironically now, I mean, this little bit we've got here, it's so quiet, and we're on a third floor flat, and if I look out the window now, it's just trees and tree tops, and it's actually quite lovely.
Yeah,
And
leafy.
starlings.
Do you get a lot of nesting birds? So is that something that you keep
Don't
busy with?
know. Don't know. We've only been here a few months.
Right, okay. So you haven't had a
But
spring here yet?
no, well, sort of, but we'd only just moved in, so I couldn't really focus on it. But it's nice coming into autumn now. There's a missel thrush has just appeared. In fact, there's two. There's just appeared
Gorgeous.
at the end of the building, and there's a big old rowan tree out there. They've been feeding off that.
I was going to say they'll be gorging
Um,
themselves on that.
oh yeah.
So I
And
have a missel thrush that visits, and he, for me, is the signal of spring because he sits at the top of the tree in my neighbour's garden and sings to his heart's content. And it's like as soon as spring's there, he's there, and it's just really nice to hear him. But I don't get to hear him at this end of the year, so maybe he moves down
well,
to stay with you. I don't know.
yeah, he's definitely seems to be a winter appearance.
We get
Yeah.
at my parents' house, so I'm kind of living between houses at the moment. I'm having some work done on mine, and we don't have a kitchen or a bathroom. So mum and dad's house is where I grew up in Worcestershire, and that's kind of quite a large, substantial garden that we're very lucky to have. And dad's manicured it and changed it up over the years, but it is a wildlife haven. I'm very proud of it because we have a lot of raptors and kestrels and all sorts of stuff that come in to feed off of the little birds, but it's like it feels like we're providing a lot for the food chain. And in a way, I suppose for me it has provided inspiration for music. I had a tune that I wrote called Pidge, which it literally was me following a pigeon falling out of a tree and landing on the ground, and my fingers just followed it, and there we go, the beginning of a tune was born. But I love sitting in their sort of living room and watching the birds out the garden, and they get a lot of red starts and some really interesting birds, a lot of different types of finches, siskins, which you don't see everywhere. We've had black caps, so we get the sparrows and everything like that as well, but it's lovely to see all this lovely other gold crests, and it's a really special place, and I get a lot of enjoyment.
Beautiful. You say about Pidge. I wrote a tune called Pigeon Hawk, which was one morning. The first thing I saw as I looked out the window was a pigeon being chased up the road by a sparrowhawk. And then about an hour later, I was out and I found a big old pile of feathers in the field.
Oh, there it goes.
So that was breakfast for him.
Yeah. The artwork that's on your 2 English Fiddle albums, because, I mean, I know you predominantly as a box player, but you probably play the fiddle as much, if not I don't know, as much as the box? What would you say?
For gigs itself, for sort of doing, weddings and stuff, it's mostly the box. Because there's fewer box players around, really. But when I go to a session, or if I'm leading a session, I'd probably play fiddle as much, maybe even a bit more. Because I find the box is it's an intense sound, there's a lot going on. I'm very aware that if I'm playing the box, I'm going to be louder than whichever fiddle player has started a tune or whatever. So I try and sit beneath it. It's much easier to do that on the fiddle. If I'm going to start a tune, it'd probably be on the box, depending what it is. If I'm going to play some French thing, it might be a French fiddle tune. I'll play it on the fiddle. But
how did you start in music? Take us back to young Will, and I know that your granddad was a huge influence on you, but was he the one that started you off with music, or was it in school, or how did that all work for you?
He was. It's a bit of a weird route. So yeah, my grandpa, he was a singer and a banjo player and guitar player, and he was in the 60s scene in London, and he was very active in that, and they used to run a folk club called the Enterprise. So me growing up, I was aware that he would sing. He would play the guitar and sing these songs, and I don't remember a time before knowing that.
Yeah, they're just normal to you, like family get-togethers were just granddad would sing and
yeah, he'd have his guitar or something.
Yeah.
And I always sort of admired him in many, many ways. Right from when I was little, if I had to draw myself as an adult, and you do that as a kid, don't you?
Yeah.
Draw your future self or something. It'd be me with a beard. I think at least once I drew myself holding a banjo. Lo and behold, look what's happened. But yeah, so
what came first, the beard or the banjo?
oh, the banjo did. Yeah. But no, so in primary school, as a lot of people are, well, hopefully still are, offered guitar lessons. So I did that for a few years, but I never got anywhere with it. It was nothing particularly driving me to practice it. I never got the hang of the reading music bit. I could remember what string was what.
Yeah.
But that was about it. And even now, I can play about 3 chords and that's it. So I kind of stopped trying the guitar when I was about 10. And I think it was generally assumed that music wasn't something that was for me,
Okay.
I was always taken to Cambridge Folk Festival every year, but yeah, beyond the guitar, I never really showed any interest in playing it. But what it was having a computer and being able to go on YouTube at the age of 9 and 10, whatever, something like that. And suddenly finding all this music from other places in the world. We didn't travel very much when I was a kid. I always, I'd watch Michael Palin programs and go, I want to go to China, or but we couldn't do that, So I think it must have been through that kind of interest that I found Chinese traditional music on YouTube. I don't remember how, but I did. And I used to listen to loads of that. I didn't know anything about it, didn't know what I was listening to. But then that kind of morphed along. I went and found Japanese music. And then by this point, I've realised that Hobgoblin Music sold, and still do sell, a lot of woodwind instruments from those areas. And at the time, it was like 30 quid for a bamboo flute or something. I thought, I could save up and, get one of them and see if it works. So I did. And I must have ended up with, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe more, various bits of woodwind from Asia. In fact, I've got a very beautiful Japanese bamboo flute. It's made out of the root end of the...
Could you show us on screen?
I can, yeah. Hang on.
I can see that it's behind you in the room. Oh, wow.
This is I think it was a birthday present. There you go. You can see the root end.
Oh, gorgeous. So that's not even carved. That is just natural rooty bits.
No, that is just the bottom of a bamboo plant. So, yeah, I ended up with quite a few things like that. Then I found Indian music, and that really captured me, Indian classical music. I can't tell you why. It's something to do with the shape of it. It's the way that it begins with just a very gentle introduction of the notes. You get one at a time. You just, you don't know the mood of the piece they're going to play until you've heard every one of those notes. And sometimes, the next one will be introduced and it will take you by surprise. And, it would just, each one has a very particular feeling, each raga.
That's fascinating to me that I happened to catch that on a little bit about that on your website, and I thought I had no idea that you'd also dabbled in Indian classical because there's a project that I'm involved with called Morris Natyam, which comes and goes. I've been part of it since 2014, I think.
I've seen about that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant project combining Indian classical dance and music with English Morris dancing, because both forms tell the stories of the seasons through different ways. But it, in Indian classical is very much related to Hinduism and all of the imagery and the stories that go along with the gods and goddesses there. And talking with Vijay Venkat, who is the one of the musicians involved, plays Western classical as well as Indian classical violin up to crazy levels. I mean, he is just one of these mega brains, and I've had some mind-expanding conversations with him about ragas, and they all do relate to emotions and human experience. And it's incredible how they pick and choose which ones they want in a show based on what they want the show to tell. And
yeah, it's something quite magical.
It goes beyond my comprehension of music, if I'm completely honest, but I am fascinated by it.
When I'm in a rut of really listening to a lot of it, I find it hard not to go, oh, this is just sort of superior to all other music. Obviously, It's not. That's a nonsense thing to say, but it feels it to me. It obviously connects with me in some way. But yeah, so from that, I was then, I wanted to play it, and I was finding websites that explained how it all worked and the intervals and all this sort of thing, so I could sort of understand it a bit better. And what I really wanted was a sitar, but, a lot of money, crazy instrument, never going to happen. What I did manage to get was some tabla, and I thought, well, if I can't get a sitar, I'll get them, that's fine, that'll do me. So I started learning those at home off YouTube and a couple of books I had. Eventually, my mum and dad decided, he's actually doing something on this. Maybe we should find some lessons. And it was a cousin of the dad of somebody I went to school with, a musician called Sam Randhawa, who was doing tabla and sitar lessons simultaneously in Strood, in a big Sikh temple in Strood. Yeah, I started going there. And it worked out quite nicely because my mum was doing her teacher training at the time. So she'd be sitting downstairs doing all her admin stuff, doing all her coursework, and I'd be upstairs with a few others learning tabla.
Wow.
But by this point, it was sort of, my family had gone, oh, maybe he has got something musical in him. And my grandpa had gone, here you go, have my dad's mandolin. So I had my great-granddad's mandolin for a bit. I managed to pick out a few tunes on that.
I'm just thinking, this was obviously before the time that Helmut Reingens would have introduced his band sitar to the world, his combination of a banjo and a sitar. Have you got one of those as well, or is that still on the cards for you?
No, I did think about it, but no. So about 2 years into playing the Melodeon.
Where did that come from? So we're up to... I'm jumping around.
So he'd given me this mandolin. My grandpa gave me this mandolin, and then he said it must have been around the start of the year 2011. Yeah, he said, "Oh, I've got this little old Melodeon at home. Do you want to have that and see how you get on with that?" I said, "Yeah," not having a clue what it was. So he said, "All right, yeah. Well, next time I see you, I'll bring it with." And I wasn't going to see him for 3 or 4 months or so. We were going to see him at Cambridge Festival. So I knew he was bringing it there, and I looked up. I went on Melodeon.net and trying to work out what this was. Looked up what the notes were and how it worked and what the pattern was, and I remember on my school desk, I'd be trying to tap out patterns of notes. Yeah, and there's this sort of hand wobble thing instead of moving the bellows that I still do. I can't do it if I think about it, but it just happens. So it was weeks of just being obsessed with this instrument that I didn't have, looking at, layout charts. And, that works like that, and okay. Yeah, and then eventually we got to Cambridge and he gave it to me. And
did it translate straight away from all of your studying, or?
Well, my mum always says so, but, it could have been a bit of time faffing in the middle bit. No, I think fairly quickly I could play a couple of tunes, Bear Dance and Speed the Plough, possibly.
That's still really impressive. Like your approach to it. That's so not what other people have told me. It wasn't my experience of like studying it before I got one, But how interesting it seems that you maybe are attracted to that kind of way of working stuff out, kind of like with your Chinese and Indian music, the Japanese stuff, you were kind of like working it out before you had an instrument to try some of these things
Definitely.
out. So
Definitely.
is that generally an approach that you have artistically, do you think? You like to kind of strategize things in your head before you...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I write tunes generally not with an instrument.
Yeah.
And I hear music, I can hear the intervals. That's how I learn a tune. I can learn a tune from a recording not knowing what key it's in, but I can hear where the root note is and what the patterns are around that.
Yeah.
That's how I do everything, really. So most of the time it means I can transpose quite well.
I was about to say, yeah.
I'll just start on this note and then I know that the rest are going to be like that. Not always reliably, but fairly good,
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Just popping in really quickly to tell you that there's an extended episode available via my Patreon, and this month it's a pretty bumper episode. There's about 15 minutes extra content, which is mega. You're going to get to hear stuff about Will's musical influences and how his brain works in transposing between different keys on one instrument, which is not easy to do on a diatonic instrument. His wildlife photography, more about his work with Chris Wood, pigeons, more about his main box and who did it up and the sort of geekery around all of that stuff, rapper dance culture, approaching his DG box as an Irish box, a C sharp D or a BC. So there's a bit more Melodeon geekery involved. And yeah, if you want to get that, I'll leave a link down in the description. You can sign up to Patreon for £4.50 a month and you can get access to all of the extended podcasts from previous guest tutors. And for a bit more money, you can get access to the Melanars as well. So do check that out. And now back to the interview. You've mentioned Morris dancing. Was that something that you were doing from a young age alongside all of this musical exploration? Or where did that come in? Who in your family was getting you involved in that? Leading you astray?
That was after I played the box for a few months. It was like, okay, I've got a few tunes now. I need to work out what they're for. I thought, well, I should play for dancing because that's what they're dance tunes,
Yeah.
So there was a Morris team. It was one of these sort of goth border Morris teams.
Yeah.
I was one of them, and I thought, oh yeah, I fancy that, But I was 13, and they had to be 18.
Yeah.
So I couldn't join them, and so then I looked at what actually turned out to be the most local team to me, which is Motley Morris in Dartford, and approached them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you can come in, yeah, young bloke with a Melodeon, yeah, off you come." And that was it really. And I joined to be a musician. I had no interest in dancing, and the very first practice I went to, they gave me a stick and pushed me in the middle of the room, and off I went. But I love it, absolutely love dancing.
I mean, you also in agreement with me, and you don't have to be, but that to understand the form of dance as a musician, that you have to also dance it. I wouldn't say to be the best dance musician you have to dance, because I know very good dance musicians who are in a wheelchair, for instance. But is that something that you found an interesting link to your music?
Yeah. What struck me the most was how Motley Morris in particular, the speed controlled everything. And we had this amazing band leader called Ivan North. Fantastic musician. Understated.
Yeah.
He'd do funny stuff, and he'd do frilly bits, and he'd do this sort of thing. But most of the time, he just played things really simply and really, really well. But yeah, it was the speed that did everything. If he wasn't there, the music would be ever so slightly too fast or ever so slightly too slow. And if he was there, it was bang on every single time. And I remember thinking, how is he doing that? Because he's not got a metronome. And not every dance was the same speed, although it was all border. Not every dance was the same speed. But I realised what he was doing. All of our dances start with 4 steps up and 4 steps across. And I very often dance number 2. So I was right at the front looking at the band. And so we'd start stepping, and I was watching Ivan, and his eyes were glued to our feet for all of those 8 steps or 16 steps, whatever it is, for the whole of the first time through the A part. Yeah. And then he'd settle in, and then he'd just hold it there. But then I started really paying attention to it. So yeah, he'd play the introduction bit. The speed would wobble all the way through the introduction ever so slightly until he got settled, and then the feet come in, and he's editing it again, and then just getting it. There we are, watching the way we're landing. And yeah, then I started to realise how that that affects everything. That is the frame with which you can do all of the dance. That shows you how much time you've got to get around this star, or how much you need to move your body to stick with this person. How much time you've got. It controls absolutely everything. So that started a real interest in that.
Yeah, and it becomes a real micro obsession, doesn't it, as a musician? Like,
yeah,
even though you might have been playing for donkey's years for the same tune, the same dance, every time I step in front of that group, it's like the first time, and I'm just, obsessing about certain people's footwork, because, we all take cues off of our favourite dancers. Nobody's going to say who, but, it's kind of, there'll always be certain people in a set that you'll be watching.
Oh yeah. And it was funny doing that again when I played for Cotswold a little bit this year for the first time.
Oh yeah, was that at Shrewsbury in the scratch side, or was it somewhere else?
I did do that. Yeah, no, I don't mean the first time properly. A little bit at Warwick and a little bit at Sidmouth.
How did you find the transition? Because both me and you started in Border. I don't know if you knew that about me, but I started in Fox's Morris. So yeah, that was my influence, very similar to you in that sense of rhythm and timing. But the step up to Cotswold as a dancer and as a musician was like completely mind-blowing. It was like something completely different I'd never experienced in my life before.
Yeah, well, this was only jigs as well, so
even more. I mean, that's like something completely separate, almost, isn't it? The solo jig stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I played for clog dancing, which is a similar approach. Is that I'm taking all of the cues from their feet, but mostly I was playing for Sam Overbeck.
Oh my God!
Who won the jig with?
Can we just take
Rich
a second? So
Go
he
on.
won the jig competition, but I'd never met this guy before. What a chap. I mean, he's spent 3 or 4 months here, hasn't he, just touring around and dancing with everyone that you seem to find, and he's learned how to make rapper swords with Frank Lee, and
he's living the dream. He's living his dream.
He's just kind of over from the States, learning all these wonderful English crafts and pastimes. And
I said to him at Sidmouth, I said, is this like some kind of weird fever dream for you? Is this sort of too much to take in? Because he was obviously, really, well, obsessed is the right word with this whole thing. And he said, yeah, it's blowing my mind.
Bless him. Because
I mean, that's really lovely, because other people have sort of noticed that and gone, oh yeah, this whole thing we're involved in is amazing.
Yeah. It's the community, isn't it? I mean, when in the opposite way, I went to America, I went to the East Coast in 2018 and to film my online course. But as part of that, I was using it as a networking opportunity to get to know people out there. And it blew my mind how much Morris there is out there in Massachusetts and like upstate New York. But they're all connected. They are just like us here. They're a big family. They get together frequently and, they meet up. They just have longer to travel because it's massive. But I can imagine him coming here and seeing just the sheer numbers of people at a festival, and then to sort of feel swept up into that community here. He's very much become part of the family, and just sort of seeing him popping up in the Northwest and the Northeast and the South, and just being adopted into different sides and completely seeming to know everything off the bat. He's just a very good dancer in that sense. He can really just jump in and knows his stuff straight away. To dance with Great Western, for instance, you don't just get that opportunity unless you really know your stuff.
And then Earlsdon Morris a week later.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's something else.
Yeah. Going back to, you were saying you were learning to play for Cotswold, and you played for Aaron Horlock, didn't you, in the solo jig, which was
so that was the first proper go I had at it. And we didn't write the dance. That John Offord wrote most of the dance, and then we finished it. That was the first time having a go. So we did the jig competition together, and that was really good fun, because it was. I'm really pleased with that jig because it's a funny old tune. It's the Staines Morris tune.
Super quirky, yeah.
I did it on my low-tuned box, so it had a real grunt to it. That was the first time, and this whole thing of completely disconnecting the tune from the rhythm that's in your head, and just taking every cue from feet, that was really fun and hard work.
Yeah.
And it completely, it made me have a renewed appreciation for really good Cotswold players,
Definitely.
It was at Warwick, I played for Sam doing a jig, which I think must have been the first time we'd done it. And, my brain was going 100 miles an hour. I was just thinking, right, just take everything from this. Oh, no, I'm just... and there'd be like half a note that's still coming out, and it's, no, this is out of tune. I need to hold it. There he is. There's the foot. It was just completely knackering mentally. And then Pexitan went on, and Rich Arrowsmith was playing, and I was watching that, going, that's how you do it. It was just stunning.
It is. It's
And
a very different thing playing for a set of Cotswold, though. I say very different. There is still an element, obviously, you have to watch the feet, but because there are 6 pairs of feet or 8 pairs of feet, whatever, you
seems
do
to me
end
that
up
it's more on them, isn't it, to dance with each other.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is something, with the sides that take the time to have those discussions and like, how high are we jumping? Because if you've got somebody that really can jump high, it's a little bit uneven if somebody really can't. So it really does come down to those things musically as well as, dance ability wise. But yeah, I think it's that real symbiotic relationship when it's just you and a dancer. It becomes its own thing. I really enjoyed your jig. I'm just going to say this because there is a video. I've got a little clip of it, but if you want the full video, guys, you can watch that on Morris Hub. The wonderful Owen Borman records everything on every jig competition, and so I'll leave a link to that downstairs, and you can go and watch Will and Aaron doing their wonderful Staines Morris jig. So as well as, it seems like you're getting your English dance passport from my perspective. So we've talked about Border, where we started out. Just a bit of Cotswold, which I didn't know, other than the jig competition. I didn't know that was brand new to you. I know you as a rapper musician, as well as many other things, but Tower Ravens are your side. Do you play with anyone else? Or when did you start? Tell us more about your rapper stuff and how you got swept up into that.
That is all down to Martin Clarke, who's
Your brown
we're the
boots.
Brown Boots duo. So he, it must have been 2018, he became the regular musician for Tower Ravens. That was probably the second year that we were a duo. And he said to me at the end of the year, he said, why don't you just try playing for Rapper? Why don't you come and do Dirt with us? And I was like, I haven't got time, and it's a Monday night. I've got a Morris team Monday night. And I said, all right, I'll give it a go. So I did. So the start of 2019, I think I went to a few practices and started going on the crawls with them and just learning this thing. But it was completely led by Martin, because he is a proper rapping musician. He really knows his stuff. So I was just sort of taking all the lead from him, learning what the way he has learnt to. He's just superb at it. He really is. He watches the dance now still, and he'll say, "Oh, I need to add 4 bars in," and he spotted a mistake way before I would have noticed it. But yeah, so I joined to do Dirt 2019 in Newcastle, and that was going to be it. But I had such a good time. And then they had another few festivals through that year, through 2019. They did Whitby, and they did Warwick. So I went to Warwick with Ravens, and then Whitby I was there with Chiltern Hundreds.
Another one of your sides, your Northwest
Yeah,
side.
well, they're my side. They're my team. Yeah, I love them.
I just want to talk a little bit more though before we talk about your. I love all the sides that you play for. They're all, in my opinion, like elite teams. They're worth watching. They're worth stopping and watching. But with Tower Ravens, you won the Derby Dirt, didn't you? I don't know if you've won others since, but I was stewarding that particular one, and I was so pleased to see that you guys won. From an outsider's perspective, I don't play for Rapper. I don't dance for Rapper. Mainly because I'm too bloody lazy and I don't like playing fast. So from an outsider's perspective, it's just playing fast jigs. But I know it's not just that. So talk to us a little bit about the genetics of the music for Rapper and the dance, because it's so well coordinated with what the girls are doing, on the floor, so to speak.
It is fast jigs, and what I hadn't appreciated was how much the tune choices matter.
Yeah.
We tried to write a new set of tunes for our regular dance, and almost every tune I suggested, we tried. It was like, no, it doesn't work, And Martin's explained to me a lot about you need the emphasis. Well, I'm not even going to say where you need the emphasis. I can't think off the top of my head. But there's tunes that just work.
Yeah, they lift in the right place, and
Yeah, and there's tunes that don't. And he's got a great ear for finding the ones that work, which I'm still getting the hang of. The approach that we've had with it is to kind of trim and fit the tunes to fit the figures in particular ways, and we'll take a bit out and we'll add a little flourishy bit when they're doing whatever, which is quite hard work, but overall rewarding.
Totally. And it's impressive to watch, you know, the stops where the tumbles are and those sorts of things. You know, those are the things that you expect from an elite rapper side. That, you know, those details have been thought about and really carefully crafted.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's all the other things like there's a bit in the main dance that Ravens do called Jubilee. They're in a circle and they've got the swords out
Arched over
in between them. And then just before they move into the next figure, they flick them out underneath them. So when they do that bit, we do a little high bit, and then it goes on to the next thing. It's stuff like that we've paid
and key
attention
changes
to.
as well, massively.
Yeah.
Change
This
the
is
energy.
again Martin, because he's got the chord knowledge. He's got the theory side that I haven't got so much. He knows that if we go from G minor to B minor, that people are going to go ooh. You know, and then go
A
to
major.
D. It resolves.
Yeah.
You know, He knows that. I'm a bit more lazy with things like that. I know that I like going from E minor to A major, and I know that G, D, and A always works as a pattern. It's not my area.
So Chilt then, where did that start? Take us right back to where that slipped into your life.
I was at Ely Folk Festival, and they were there dancing, and I went to one of their workshops because I'd never done Northwest before. I'd only done Border at that point. Went along because a friend was going, and I just loved it. Really loved it. And actually, what made the biggest difference was the person in the team that was sort of allocated to our bit of the set that was learning. She was really engaging, really friendly, and very good at explaining things. She made all the difference, actually, and she's still a very good friend now. She's only just stopped dancing for the team. But I can thank Penny for that. Actually, that was
shout out to Penny.
Yeah, because she was just so welcoming, you know. And I thought this is a good atmosphere, and I like this. It's the same with Ravens, you know. I'm not a rapper nerd. I don't have enormous interests in rapper dancing beyond what we do. I just love that team of people. It's a really good atmosphere, and it just feels great, you know.
It totally makes the difference, doesn't it? If you're surrounded by people that have got a common interest in, you know, what you're doing, but also the performance aspect and nipping and tucking things to make it, you know, slip along really well. But if they're great to get along with as well, I think that's what you need to begin with, to be honest, because I've known so many border sides that have gone tits up because of personality clashes.
Oh, hundreds, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, it's like, another one on the bonfire. But, you know, it happens, doesn't it? I think you get a group of passionate people together, and if you're not all aligned, it will blow up quite spectacularly.
Yeah, it comes down to sort of how it's run as well, doesn't it? And
Is Chilts quite a democracy, or is there quite a strict leadership structure? It seems as there are so many of you. I mean, as Saul mentioned it, you had 24 up, was it? For a dance?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, at Whitby this year. For the first time ever, we had 24 dancers in the same.
It looked incredible, yeah.
I was actually not there for the first day it happened. And when I got there on the Monday, I didn't think we were going to have enough to do it, but we did. So I said, let's do something for 24. And I planted myself right in the middle of the whole thing because I wanted to feel.
Yeah, you wanted the surround sound of it all.
Oh my God, our band has never sounded quiet before. You know, we've got 3 drums and like 5 boxes and stuff.
Are you guys on rubbers or steels for your clogs?
Rubber, yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say they probably wouldn't let you dance on that brand new dance floor at Whitby if you had steels.
No, that's the thing. The other clog teams that do dance in irons, they have to take rubbers with them as well.
Yeah, okay.
In my head, I'd love us to wear irons, but a lot of our figures I don't think would be doable.
Yeah.
I think we'd just be asking for trouble.
Slipping around.
Yeah, and because we kick quite high and we jump as we do it as well, so there's an extra sort of landing element to it.
Yeah.
And I just think it'd be a bit too risky. We slip over every now and then as it is, you know.
But I guess with that jumping, you've got a little bit of shock absorption in the rubber anyway, so it's, you know, you can prolong the knees for a little bit longer, perhaps.
Yeah, probably doesn't make much difference.
Before I was a musician full-time, I travelled around with a job that allowed me to basically become a bit of a Morris tart, because wherever I was working, I'd just find out who was local, who did I know, okay, I'll go to your Morris practice if it coincides. And I did an evening with Whitethorn, who are a ladies' northwest side, for anyone listening. And
they're our
I
neighbours.
did one... Yeah, you're that far south, right? Okay. Chiltern, yeah, I suppose.
We both practice in the same hall now.
Actually.
We both
right.
practice in Watford.
Okay. And I thought, God, this is hard work. You really need to be fit for this. And I was fit at the time with Border Morris, but it's a totally different level of fitness. And I thought,
Oh, it kills me. It really kills me. The first day I danced out with Chilts was at Oxford. 2 days we were doing, and I put everything into it on the Saturday.
Oh no!
And then I was on the train back, and I'd eaten some crap like fast food or something. Sat on the train, and I had heartburn, proper heartburn for the first time, and I didn't know what that felt like, and I thought I was having a heart attack.
Oh, bless you!
So when I got back into London, there was a point where I got off at Baker Street tube station. It's like, I need to find do I need an ambulance or something? Because I really, I was quite panicky.
Quite panicked by it, yeah.
And then I think it must have been my dad that I'd rang or something. He said, maybe it's just heartburn, keep going till you get to Swanley. So he met me at the station, handed me a bottle of Gaviscon and a spoon. Immediately gone. So that was probably the most exercise I've ever done in a day was that.
Where did the fiddle start off for you then? So Box got going through and kind of perpetuated through Morris, but fiddle, is that newer for you?
A little bit, but not much. I think it was probably about 3 years into playing the box, so about 10 years ago. Again, my grandpa had one, and he gave it to me.
Do you play your granddad's now?
Yeah, still do. Yeah. It had 3 strings on it, and they were gut strings, and I mean proper, not fancy modern stuff where it's gut with a metal winding. It was just gut. Yeah, and I just mucked about with it. And
nice.
Then at some point, I thought, actually, I quite like this. I'll try it properly, and we found a local luthier who did it up for me. Dante Zuffolo in Bromley. He's very good.
There we go. A nice little shout out for the luthier. I think those people that look after our instruments, they maybe live a more off-grid life, but they are the people that keep all of us going. I mean, for us, I don't know about you, box-wise, Mike Rowbottom, I want to give a quick shout-out to him down in Helston, Cornwall. I love him to bits. He spends so much time telling me what he's doing and really talking through everything so I understand it, and I really appreciate that. Does he do your box work as well?
They're brilliant people. Yeah, I've got one...
Oh, he did the FB flat, didn't he?
That's from Mike. Yeah, Mike did that for me. Yeah, he's a genius. He's just brilliant.
Going back to the fiddle, I've seen beautiful videos of you playing with the legend that is Chris Wood. Tell us how that came about. Is it just because you're both Kentish men or men of Kent? I never know which way round it should be, but is that how you got connected, because of geography, or was it something else?
Yeah, it kind of was geography, because through walking, I went to this particular place that it turned out he walks at.
Oh, no way! So you met on a walk?
Literally bumped into him. It's like, oh, hang on, you're Chris Wood, He's going, yeah.
Folk musicians don't tend to get recognised, so that must have been really weird for him.
Especially not in a field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got chatting through there, and I think then I must have seen him again at a gig, one of his gigs. Yeah, and we just seemed to get on well, and we did a gig together last week.
Oh, wow.
It was for the Royal Society of Marine Artists, and it came through to me because of another gig I'd done for a charters company that had done this boat up. And this email came in and said, we want some background music for this exhibition launch. And I thought, well, all right, who do I know that is interested in, that would play traditional music and is interested in boats? And I thought of Chris, because he's a bit of a sailor, and he was up for it. So we had 2 rehearsals actually for this, which we knew was going to be just background music, nobody really listening, but
you could probably get away with playing the same tune round in different key signatures, maybe.
Well, we were playing the same tune for at least 5 minutes at one point, Yeah, no, it was really good fun.
I'm sure I can speak for everyone here, and maybe you've explained this somewhere, but why did a fiddle album come from you before a box album did? And in fact, 2 fiddle albums. Well, I think we're still awaiting the Will Allen box album. What is it about English fiddle and your interpretation of that, and the freedom we have within English folk music? What was your kind of position in that to produce 2 albums on it?
I was finding myself driving a lot and thinking, what I really want to listen to is really simple recordings of fiddle music from the place that I'm in. Because when I went to Scotland for a couple of times on holiday, you can do that easy. You can listen to music from the place you're at. I was on Sky listening to Breacher Campbell, the piper, and it was like, oh yeah, that just completely makes sense. It just fits perfectly. And I got back to England, and I'm sort of going, all right, I've got 400 miles to go, and I can't quite work out what what the noise is of these places. I spoke to a few friends of mine that sprang to mind, fiddle players, and I said, why don't you do this? And they were like, I'm not sure I would listen to it. Or, I thought, for goodness sake, right, if you're not going to do it, I'll give it a go. Actually, the best sort of thing that encouraged me was I floated the idea with a friend who I won't name because he might sound a bit negative by this, but it was a really good remark he made. I told him what my idea was, and I said, I think I'm just about a good enough fiddle player to make a reasonable job of it. And he went, yeah, maybe. And
just left it at that.
He just left it at that. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's the thing. That's enough of a little kick up the arse for me to go, all right, okay, no, I'm going to give this a go. Because, you know, if you think maybe there's a chance, then, all right, let's do it.
I mean, they're beautiful albums. To look at, because it's your gorgeous photography on it. And then Rowan's work as the sound engineer on it as well, Rowan Piggot, little shout out for him because he's doing some beautiful home recording work.
He plays sitar on both albums, upright bass and fiddle and something else, like sort of a drone thing, harmonium drone thing. Yeah, he's amazing.
I think it's that, going back to what you said there about you just wanted some simple, just basically tunes that sounded really well put together without any other accoutrement. You've kind of selected other instruments for certain tracks to really complement what you're doing. But
I didn't want the music to be about me. I thought about doing it under a pseudonym until I realised that if I did that, really nobody would buy it at all. It's about the tunes and it's about the music and the style. That was what I wanted to share. So then the question about whether there's a box one coming, that's going to be a hell of a lot harder for me to do without it being about me, because it would just be about me, I don't really feel like a fiddle player still. When I listen to it, if I listen back to it, I go, that's me, is it? Okay. I've got a few things sort of forming up box-wise.
Oh. Any exclusives you can let us have?
Well, not really, because I haven't decided anything, but I am going to record something with it. I mean, there's the 2 Brown Boots albums where I'm just playing box.
Of course.
And again, that's, just box and fiddle for the whole thing. It's funny, though, because I find myself thinking, would I want to make an album that's just me playing the box? Would I listen to that? There's only a handful of albums that are a solo box like that I would listen to. And the reason I listen to them is not about it being a box. It's the musician itself. So Brendan Begley is the best example of that. The fact that he's playing the box, that's not really relevant. It's the feeling behind it and the raw energy he puts in. It's his personality and it's his emotion that goes through it. The instrument is secondary to that.
Yeah. Just on that note there, it kind of segues quite nicely with what my guest tutors do on the Melinar for Patreon. And this evening you are coming on to demonstrate a strategy for taking inspiration from other musicians, other genres, other instruments. How is that process? I mean, talking to you, it seems obvious now with the way that you've just really had that strategic brain of working stuff out, listening to all sorts of different music, and then obviously being around your granddad's instruments, adopting those as part of your own self. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to be experiencing tonight and what people can get on the replay listening to this afterwards.
Well, I suppose what I'm going to do is go through the things that influence me most from other instruments. But that does go for music in general. I don't listen to purely trad music. I listen to all sorts of stuff.
When you mentioned Brendan Begley, I mean, who else have you, the Quebecois music, for instance, the Club Débris, who, Bottine Souriant, obviously, I would imagine, but any other players specifically that would have influenced you?
Not so much Le Bottine Souriant, actually. I haven't listened to them very much. There's a guy on YouTube, Rajon Simard, who plays in this phenomenally relaxed style. He just kind of sat back, boxes on his knee, pure groove. His rhythm is astonishing. And then, what else? Maybe Andre Brunet, the fiddle player from Le Vent du Nord as well.
Yes.
Again, it's the rhythm and the feeling behind it that really gets me. I need to listen to more Quebecois music, really, because I think we can always keep improving, and I want to get the style down better. And, I think I've always been a fairly good mimic.
Yeah.
The same as doing an accent. And when I'm playing in an Irish session, I feel like I'm doing an accent.
Yeah.
All night, I'm playing my DG box as if it was a C sharp D or a BC, if I'm playing polkas and slides, I'm thinking, right, but how would this work on a C# D box?
You have a lot of sessions to choose from down in London, don't you? You're always advertising them.
Loads. Every day of the week now.
That's great. And you started your English session, I've just seen as well.
Yeah, well, that's very fresh. We'll see how that goes. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point, for people to hear the mimicry side of things, listening to other music, other musicians, other instruments, and how you can adopt certain phrases and ways of playing. I think that that's a really important detail, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes across tonight with my lovely crowd of Patreon supporters. So,
well, I'm looking forward to finding out what on earth I'm going to say, because I don't quite know. So I will realise things that I've never thought of during the process. I know that.
This is it. Do you teach very much, Will? I mean, is there anything here? I mean, I know you've done a bit at C#. You, like myself, covered for some of Hazel's classes. But have you had a chance to interpret what it is you do, how you conceptualise stuff, and then delivering it to a group of people who are learning?
Not very much. Generally, I find teaching quite difficult because you've got to think about what you're doing far more than normal.
Yeah.
So I don't do loads of it. I don't have much time to do it. I've got one regular student at the moment, fiddle student, but that's all. Yeah, I should do more, and I think I'm going to try and do some more workshops next year at festivals if I can.
This conversation has made me think that you've got the brain for it, you've got the nous for it. If you've worked these things out for yourself, the next step is to break it down for other people. That's essentially how I approach teaching. Is, well, I do it like this, so how can I then break that down as a concept and make it simpler to start them off with that? And it does take time, but it's something I feel like you've got the character for it, you've got the patience for it, and, well, you'll be the judge of that as you go forward with it. But I think you've got a gentleness about you that will really set yourself up well for that.
What I would like, if anything, is to help people get to a stage where they can find what influences them.
Yeah.
I made a deliberate choice to not listen to box playing because I knew that if I did, I would just end up copying it. So, listen to fiddles and pipes and concertinas and other stuff. And I think that is quite a useful thing to do because everybody will have different things that they latch onto for different reasons. And I think that's what makes us individual musicians, is finding the weird influences that creep in. Yeah, if anything, I'd like to help people get to find their voice more.
That's a really special thing, I think, and there will be people listening, I'm sure, that will want to, explore that with you. And it might be that it might not be the absolute beginners that come your way. It doesn't sound like that's the sort of thing that might interest you, but the people who are at a point in their playing where they want to become their own voice, that does get to a lot of people after a point of the bare mechanics of the thing, actually making it your own, the musicality of it, and there's so much that you could offer there. You've always struck me, and this conversation has just embedded it further, as an old head on young shoulders, and I hope you take that as a compliment. But just a really sensible person who's just worldly wise, and you aren't that old, so it's always amazed me how, when I first found out how old you were, this was a few years ago, so when you were a bit younger than your young years already, and I thought, oh my God, he comes across as such a sensible person who isn't like other young people who I've known that get sensible, when they're in their 30s.
Yeah, I've been told that a few times, yeah.
I think I want to give a little shout out to your mum, because she's been ever so happy that this has happened and that you've come on the podcast. Yeah. But, all credit to her, or, to raise a darling young man. I think that's a champion thing. And I think shout out to mums everywhere, because mine's amazing as well. And she's done amazing things for me over the years. So
absolutely. Yeah. Parents in all their forms.
Yes. What a lovely way to put it. Well, I think a beautiful place to wrap up. We do need to finish there. We've been talking for an hour and a half, which I love. And I could easily talk to you for longer.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And it's been nice to actually properly talk about what I do, because I'm usually too busy just doing it.
Well, this is the thing, is because I'm a nosy bugger, and I want to know. I want people to stop and really think about what they do. And I guess not everyone is always aware, but I'm really pleased that you have taken the time to think about it and really verbalise it in such an engaging way. Will's links will be downstairs in the description, so go and check out his website, find out where he's playing live. There's all sorts of extra information that we just haven't had time to talk about, like some film projects, which, I'll talk to you about that off camera, but go and find that out. Yeah. And keep an eye out for him on the session scene, on the folk music scene. Buy his albums, especially this new one that's coming, is out now with Club Débris. Ricochet. I know it's going to be amazing. I've heard them at Shrewsbury and they made me love Contra. I never thought I would love Contra, but now I do. So there we go. Thank you so much, Will, and I'll see you in just a bit for the Melinar.
Thank you very much.
And just a reminder again that you can get that Melinar from Will and the extended episode of this podcast via my Patreon. You can sign up to whatever tier suits you for the content that you want to access. Follow the link in the description below for more details about how to sign up. This month on my Patreon, my guest tutor is Lucy Huzzard. She is a fantastic box player and dancer extraordinaire. She does a lot of English dance as well as Swedish dance. She studied at the Erik Sahlström Institute of Swedish Folk Dance Music. I myself did a Polska workshop with her back in 2018 and absolutely fell in love with it. She's a really dedicated tutor and she really thinks about how to display things and interpret things and deliver. I've asked her to come on to teach something about Scandinavian music and our interpretation as English musicians. We look a lot to Scandinavia in our fiddle repertoire, but also it'd be interesting to see what she interprets in her box repertoire as well. She's going to be joining me in my Patreon community of Mel's Angels on Monday the 21st of October. That's 7 till 8 p.m. live on Zoom. You can join us live by signing up to Patreon to get the Zoom link. But if you can't make the live, don't worry, it's going to be recorded and you can access that via your membership afterwards. Just a couple of things from me to plug, as well as my own Melinar that I teach every month. I don't talk about that often enough. I always talk about the guest tutor, but I also do a Melinar as well on my Patreon. I will be teaching 2 workshops at the stables in Milton Keynes. This month, if you're quick enough, you can get in for this Saturday. This is the 12th of October. I'll be teaching a level 1 absolute beginner's Melodeon, 10 till 3 p.m. And then on the 23rd of November, I'm teaching a level 2. That's not to say that you have to do the level 1 and then immediately do level 2. I've been teaching at the stables now for over a year. So if you've done the L1 course and you fancy jumping up to the Improvers L2, you're very, very welcome. Also, if you are just at Improver level, you don't have to have done L1 with me at the stables. You can just come along if you suit the criteria. That will be the 23rd of November, 10 till 3 o'clock. All of that information I'll leave down below so you can go and look at that via a link. That's it from me this month. Thank you ever so much for listening. Thank you to everybody who supports my work and my podcast on Patreon. And I'll see you again next month with Lucy Huzzard on the podcast. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to leave comment, review, subscribe, all the good stuff just to keep helping promote this podcast. And I will see you next month. Cheers, guys. Bye.